Good morning, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much for coming here today. My name is Dashel Sears. I am the North American Regional Director for Fast Track Cities. It is my pleasure to be here in the great city of Cleveland, the seat of Cuyahoga County, for the signing of the Paris Declaration on Fast Track Cities and the Sevilla Declaration on the centrality of community in the HIV, TB, and the viral hepatitis responses. I am here to introduce our first speaker for today. But first, I want to say it's my pleasure to be here. It is my first time in the city of Cleveland, and as I'm not disappointed, it will not be my last either. I'm also very short, so I need it down here. But I have enjoyed my time here. It's wonderful weather. I was able to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for a brief visit. I think everyone should go. It's excellent. I will go back to DC, and I'll be telling everybody about you guys should need to come here in Cleveland and see what's going on. It's great. But first, why are we here today? We're here today because HIV continues to be a legacy epidemic that we all know can end. And not just end clinically, but holistically. And I'm pretty sure that everyone here agrees. And we have the expertise and the will and the heart to end this epidemic by 2030. And not just HIV, but all other affiliated comorbidities that go along with HIV. So I'm excited to start off today by having Ms. Naima O'Neill, who is the co-chair of the Positive Women's Network of Ohio, come and provide some remarks. So please welcome Ms. O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Can you all hear me well? I'm excited to be here. I was excited asked to speak. Not so much to be first, but then I realized that people living with should be first. We should be the people that are the go-to people. And so as a woman who is HIV positive and has been for the last 31 years, I've seen a lot that has gone on in Cleveland and in Cuyahoga County. So I'm excited for this collaboration. I'm excited because we can end HIV, but it's gonna take all of us. It's not gonna be a singular thing with the city, it's not gonna be a singular thing with the county. It must be a holistic thing with everyone working together. That means ASOs, that means people living with, that means people who do the work on the ground, and we call it, a friend of mine called it a dirt advocacy. It's gonna take everyone to sit at the table, and then we need to bring new people to the table. We need to bring people that we haven't thought about, that are just as important to be there if we truly want to end, and we know we can, right? We know we can end HIV. We know that there are things that we have to do. We know what's specific. We just need to dig in, do the work, and Cleveland and the county does excellent work. We just need to ramp it up and get things done. I am only going to be before you long because I know we have other speakers, but I am excited to see everyone here. I hope that you enjoy the presentation, and go Cleveland and go Cuyahoga County. I have the pleasure of announcing the next speaker, which will be Cedric Taylor.
Good morning, everybody. Give a hand for Naima. It is a dream come true, a pleasure to be in front of you all today. I'm seeing some participating faces from the beginning of my HIV journey to those who I just met. So this is a great thing for our city, and I feel like we have the tools, we have the right people in place, we have the right resources, And this is where we bring it all together. This is where it begins. So the work starts here. So I'm charging the city of Cleveland. I'm charging our health departments. I'm charging our organizations, the grassroots, the community members to come together and put those resources together and work hard as we know we can. You know, it's Cleveland, so we know how to pull things together. We know how to come out on game 6. All right, so we're gonna do that together. For myself, I was diagnosed in 2018. Jim McMillan-Smith from Metro Health helped me through those pieces with the Positive Peers app, with counseling, with support from her team, her staff, her support groups, as well as my family. And what does that other support look like in terms of being connected to other organizations within the community? You know, bringing everything together to bridge those gaps. Lita brought me on board, and that was the most eye-opening experience for me because I got to see things on the back end on how things logistically roll. So I think this is the point where we bridge those and have conversations together. So I'm not gonna stand up here all day long, but I just wanted to say that I'm super excited that we're in this position today, and we're supposed to be in this position today because we've earned it and we have the ability to make it happen. So thank you. Next up, we're gonna have Dr. Gibshower.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here today too. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here representing actually all of our wonderful HIV medical providers across Greater Cleveland. We're all committed to working together to end the HIV epidemic, and actually many of us came together many years ago to sign a letter asking to join this FACITY initiative, so I'm super excited that this is happening today. And thank you for allowing me to represent all of the great providers across all the systems, by the way. As a physician who spent her career taking care of people with HIV, I'm so glad to be able to tell my new patients now, if you take your pill every day, you're gonna be just fine. There's nothing you can't do. When I started in HIV care over 30 years ago, we really could only treat one opportunistic infection after the next until people were too weak to get better. But everything changed in the mid-90s. Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Closer? Okay. Everything changed, in the mid-90s, when we had, that's the first time we had medicines that could actually stop the virus itself, and therefore it didn't get resistant to the medicine and people got healthy, and now, since then, our medicines have just gotten easier to take, less toxic, and now most people can just take one pill a day or even 2 shots every 2 months if that's what they prefer. So life expectancy now with people who are living with HIV is essentially that of those who don't have HIV. And furthermore, we now know that people who are on medication and their virus is suppressed to what we call undetectable, so we can't measure the virus in the blood. They cannot pass the virus on to their sexual partners. Therefore, it's untransmittable. And so, hence, U equals U. So you see, we do have the tools to end the HIV epidemic if people just get the care they need so they can benefit and live a long, healthy life, and they also can't pass the virus on to others. In addition, we have a great other new tool, HIV pre-exposure prophylaxis or PrEP. So people who are at risk of acquiring HIV can protect themselves with a daily pill or a shot bi-monthly, similar to contraception that's used to prevent pregnancy. But unfortunately, not everyone is benefiting from these great advances in HIV care and prevention. We know that here in Cleveland, similar to national data, new HIV diagnoses are disproportionately in people of color and in gay, same gender-loving, bisexual, or other men who have sex with men, and trans women. And the CDC also shows there's a big gap in PrEP utilization between men of color and white men. So, thanks to Ryan White and other funding, financial barriers should never be an issue to accessing care and medication. We can get medicines for everyone. But stigma is a huge barrier. Stigma makes people not want to get a test, makes people not want to come to an appointment, makes people not want to tell their family, maybe not take their medicine, maybe not even want to live with HIV. Stigma is how HIV can kill people in 2023, and we must address it, as well as the structural barriers, including racism, homophobia, and transphobia, which is sadly so much in the news again now. We need to also, to help modernize our HIV criminalization laws that perpetuate stigma and are not based in current science, and actually also disproportionately get people of color. We also need to address social determinants such as poverty and trauma, as well as mental health and substance use to help people to want to actually engage in their health care. Because when they're in care, people do great. So, we all have a role in ending HIV. Know your status, get a test, encourage everyone you know to get a test. We still have people presenting late, and I think that's actually a public health failure when people are presenting sick with AIDS, and we could have helped them much sooner. If you're negative and having sex with people you don't know are negative too, access PrEP. If you're positive, get in care right away so you can live a long, full life. Support your friends and family to do the same. Squash stigma when you hear it and correct HIV misinformation. It's not a death sentence. My 20-year-old hairdresser said that's what she learned in her health class. Like, sit still, that AIDS is a death sentence. Like, we need to squash this misinformation. It's completely treatable. People can still have healthy babies, a healthy sex life, and live their best life yet. So I want to thank our political leaders here today and the health departments for bringing our community together to end HIV and joining the Fast Track City.
Thank you.
And thank you. And I think next up is Lita Wills from the Cleveland Department of Public Health.
Thank you, Dr. Gripsower. Can you hear me? I'm nervous about that. I'm gonna lean close. I'm Lita Wills, Commissioner of Health Equity and Social Justice here at Cleveland Department of Public Health. The first person to be in this position, and I'm very honored. I'm going to read the remarks that I prepared, and I'm gonna take my time because this is important, and I want you to hear me. I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a story. In 1992, I was a 10th grader at John Marshall High School on Cleveland's west side. I had a teacher who took 2 weeks out of our regular curriculum to educate myself and my classmates on HIV/AIDS, a virus that was wreaking havoc on communities all over the world. At this time, there was no mandate around HIV or sexual health education, but we had a teacher, Mr. John Zima, who knew what was coming and cared enough about us to help keep us safe. That spring, he invited about 8 of us to accompany him to view the Names AIDS Quilt Project when it was at what was then the Convocation Center. My classmates and I were to participate in the unfolding ceremony, carefully carrying large sections of the quilt and twirling them open in unison. Armed with our 2 weeks' worth of knowledge from Mr. Zima, we believed we were prepared for what we would experience. Not only was the occasion somber, for us as 10th graders, it was practically devastating. We saw quilts for babies who had died, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, beloved friends, and lovers. The ride home was pin drop silent as we contemplated what we had just witnessed. Years later, I arrived at the Free Clinic of Greater Cleveland for my first real job out of college, working in HIV prevention and education with teenagers. By then, in the year 2000, we had begun to witness what I consider miracles in my lifetime. We now had antiretroviral drugs that could extend lives of HIV/AIDS patients. That's a miracle. We soon came to witness the same treatments and technologies being given to pregnant mothers, ensuring that the virus would not be passed to their babies. A miracle in my lifetime. I was at the Free Clinic when we received tools to tell someone their HIV status in minutes rather than a long, excruciating 2-week wait for results. Another miracle in my lifetime. I marveled when we began using emergency post-exposure prophylaxis to prevent infections. And then again, when we could widely use pre-exposure prophylaxis to stop even more HIV infections. More miracles in our lifetime. Along the way, I experienced friends and family members receiving an HIV diagnosis, and loved ones and long-term survivors passing on. I witnessed inequities in distribution of resources, information, and in protection. In the work we push to end stigma, to mitigate disproportionate health impacts of HIV/AIDS on Black and Brown communities, on LGBTQ+ communities, on returning citizens, on young people. Surely, we have more miracles to go in our lifetime. Let me tell you something that I know about miracles. Miracles are not accidents. Miracles are not magic. We do not wait for them. We show up, we move obstacles, and we stand in the gap, ready to make them happen. Becoming a fast-track city is not the miracle. This is the culmination of the determination of everyone in this room and thousands more who helped bring this moment about and who are using this moment as a springboard to hold ourselves accountable, to set lofty goals and reach them. Mr. Zima, wherever you are, thank you. Welcome to Fast Track Cities, Cleveland. May we believe in and create more miracles in our lifetime. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lita, for those warm words. My name is Andre Brown. I am the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. And like Lita, I am the inaugural holder of this position, and so I'm very excited to be here. I actually got my start in public health and HIV prevention many years ago while a student in Michigan, and so it's sort of a full circle moment for me to be here in a new role, but still focusing on HIV. I felt like Lita and Dr. Grifshover stole all my thunder. They were very comprehensive in their remarks, and so I just want to reinforce some things that they said from the equity, diversity, and inclusion perspective about why this initiative is important and how we can ensure that it's going to be as successful as possible. And so I want to ground those comments in this idea of Jedi. Right, and so some of you all may have heard of it. It's not the Star Wars. I was going to bring my lightsaber, but I couldn't get it through security, so I had to leave it in the car. But what we talk about from a public health perspective when we talk about Jedi is justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, right? And so when we start to think about justice, right, one of the things that we know is a problem, as Dr. Grifshover so eloquently highlighted, was the fact that our HIV criminalization laws are not with the times. We know they don't reflect the latest science. We know that they drive inequities in HIV, and we also know that it exacerbates problems in terms of the over-policing and imprisonment of Black and brown bodies. And so as we think about how to move forward and really eliminate and do the work to eliminate HIV from our communities, because we have those tools, we have to ensure that the laws and the processes and procedures that we put in place don't have unintended consequences which actually make our jobs harder and make HIV a bigger problem than what it is, particularly HIV stigma. And so our justice work has to be to ensure that the protective measures that we have in place are for everyone and that they don't harm particular groups of folks more so than others. When we're talking about equity, right, that's this idea that there are some in our communities who need resources more than others because historically they have not had those resources. They've been denied systematically through laws, de facto policies and procedures. And so as we think about, bisexual, gay, same-gender loving men, when we think about transgender women, when we think about folks with substance use disorders, we know that those folks are at greater risk for HIV. And many of those things have to do with the social conditions in which they're in. And so if we're going to focus on equity, we need to ensure that our resources are reaching those communities and those people because not everyone has the same level of risk from HIV, from getting HIV, or also from all of the potential negative effects that can come from it. I actually had a friend, it's been about 10 years now, but we were very well advanced in HIV prevention in terms of the tools and resources that we had. He was an HIV prevention educator, and he died from HIV-related complications, right? A young black man, late 20s at the time, right? So we know that even when we have these tools, PrEP and PEP and ARTs and all that, that not everyone has equal access to those things. So what are we going to do as we move forward to ensure that the people who need our resources the most get them? And that's where the equity part comes in. And then finally, for our D&I, for diversity and inclusion, we have to ensure that the people who are most impacted by HIV are the ones leading the charge to eliminate HIV. So if we know that black and brown folks and transgender folks and people with substance use disorders are the ones who are most impacted by HIV, we should see them in leadership. They should be the ones making the decisions. They should be the ones telling us what needs to be done, what is and isn't going to work. And so we need to make sure that the leadership reflects the epidemic, because people know how to solve their own problems. We don't need to come in as little Jesuses and try to save the world. We need to be able to leverage the resources, the political power, the money that we have as health departments to enable and empower the community to solve their own problems. And HIV is certainly a solvable problem in our lifetime. And so I'm very excited to work with the city's Department of Public Health, Cleveland, in order to move this forward. We have all been working together on a lot of different initiatives, HIV and otherwise, because we know that Cleveland is Cuyahoga and Cuyahoga is Cleveland. And we know that we have to move collectively in order to address these very solvable problems. And so I'm very excited to be here today to celebrate our Fast Track Cities initiative, to really center JEDI in our work and ultimately ensure that we are the healthiest that we possibly can be. So thank you all very much for that. I appreciate it. Next up is Dr. Margolis.
Thank you. Thanks all for being here. This is, my name's Dave Margolis. I'm Director of Public Health, City of Cleveland. This is full circle for me as well. Really appreciate everything that's been said so far. My training in medicine was in San Francisco at the San Francisco General Hospital, which was the first HIV hospital in the country, in 5A specifically, for those who've seen the documentary. And I worked at the HIV clinic, Ward 86. And so really happy to be here. Fast forward a decade later or so, I was sworn in August 1st, 2022. And if folks remember what was going on then, a few days before, Mpox was declared a global public health emergency. So this was my first week on the job. Dr. Harris was in month 3 or 4, and Commissioner Lita Wills led the charge for the city of Cleveland, working with the county and all of you in this room. And so as a result, we were doing vaccines and all sorts of resourceful places in the community, with the community, for the community. And fortunately, our caseload as a city and county never got above 100. And so we're really proud of that work. Don't fact check me on this, but I think this is the first time that the city and county health departments have been up on the same stage together. At least one of the first times, so really proud that we're all in this together. And that's been a goal, a constant goal of Dr. Harris and I. So with that, I'll introduce my friend, my mentor, my colleague, frequent collaborator, Commissioner of Health at the County Board of Health, Dr. Rod Harris.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm going to just yell because I feel like I need to be heard. But first, I want to thank County Exec Christopher O'Neill, Mayor Bibb, for demonstrating your commitment to ending the HIV epidemic here in Cuyahoga County and the city of Cleveland. As we heard, our goal is to have 0 new HIV infections and 0 AIDS-related deaths by the year 2030. And 2030 will be here before we know it. It's coming fast. And it's going to take a whole lot of work to get this done, and that includes all of you. On behalf of the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, I want to express my commitment to this effort alongside my peer and my partner in all this work, Dr. Margolius, to ensure that we have effective leadership as we tackle this issue, but also sustain this important and very difficult work. Fast Track Cities Cleveland is a city initiative, but I want to reassure everyone that this is a regional approach to this effort. And so the Cuyahoga County, as well as our surrounding counties, will also be involved as we make sure that we get this goal achieved. Lastly, we heard earlier that we have the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities to make this happen. With our organizations working together, we can be successful, but there's no space for competition, politics, or silos as we do this. And furthermore, I want to reiterate what we've already heard, which is also that equitable access to care, treatment, and services is very important and very key to this work. And then also, regardless of where people live, who they are, they should have every opportunity to get tested, know their status, get medications if they are in fact positive, and then also, if they have the opportunity to speak with their physician, be able to get information and medications that are prepped. I would lastly like to say that we can't do this alone. We have partners here today. Many of you are partners on our grants that we have at the health department, which include the Ending the HIV Epidemic grant and also our Ryan White project. We have staff from the health departments here. Thank you for the work that you do every day. Thank you for the commitment that you've had to make all of this happen. And we can't do this without you. And we're in this mission together. So thank you. And I have Dr. Jose Zuniga. All right, please.
Well, good morning, Cleveland. As a fellow Buckeye, born in Cincinnati just a few years ago, it's an honor to be back in Ohio and back in Cleveland, the city I've grown fond of through several visits to this area. I'm Jose Zuniga, president of the Fast Track Cities Institute and the International Association of Providers of AIDS Care. We're responsible for coordinating a network of more than 500 cities globally, working to accelerate their local HIV responses towards the goal of ending AIDS as a public health threat in cities by 2030. We continue to welcome cities into the network. Most recently, just last week, San Juan, Puerto Rico joined this initiative. And so I think as we continue to welcome new cities and as important here in the U.S., counties as critical partners to the objectives of the Fast Track Cities Initiative, we're demonstrating proof of concept that we can end urban HIV epidemics by 2030. The data are with us. Really honored to be here on the stage with political leaders such as Mayor Bibb, County Executive Ronayne, as well as the Cleveland and Cuyahoga County health departments. These types of demonstrations and active engagement in political and public health leadership have been critical over the last 9 years of the initiative as we have worked with cities around the world to ensure that no one gets left behind in the HIV response. I'm equally impressed that both the county and the city have prioritized equity, diversity, and inclusion as important pillars for not just the HIV response, but the health response in whole for people living with and affected by HIV in Cleveland and Cuyahoga County. Without this leadership, our efforts are very difficult to advance, but as important, the alignment and support for affected communities is equally critical because, as has been said very eloquently already, without affected communities in leadership roles, without affected communities monitoring the impact that our programming is having, we are not truly satisfying the requirement we have to be faithful stewards to our constituents. And so in that respect, I'm thrilled that both the mayor and the county executive, as well as public health leaders, and those who are advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion in the city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County will be signing both the Paris Declaration on Fast Track Cities and the Sevilla Declaration, committing themselves personally and professionally to advancing the goals, objectives, and targets of the Fast Track Cities Initiative. thank you in advance for joining the Fast Track Cities Network.
I'm in the mayor's house, so he's, I think, going to get the last word. But I wanted to say it's good to be back at City Hall. I'm Chris Ronan, I'm a Cuyahoga County Executive. If I haven't met you, I look forward to meeting with you. And to our visitors doing the work around the world, thank you for the work you do. I remember being, well, I was the planning director here years ago working on the 5th floor, but then on the policy side came down to the mayor's office where Mayor Bibb does his work today on the 2nd floor. And I remember in the early 2000s how daunting the task of tackling the issues of HIV and persons living with HIV seemed to us in this community, how daunting it was, coming off of 2 or 3 decades of just not knowing where to go with this. And today, while our work continues and we've got extraordinary challenges as it relates to the variances of access to health care and the need to be equitable, and I too am glad that JEDI, in the way that you just presented it, is our framework, that equity, both at city and county, is the framework for tackling health. But today, 20 years later, how much further we've come together because of the partnership. And today, if this is the first time that the county and city departments and boards of health are together on stage, let it be the first of many. Mayor Bibb and I are working together in collaboration on every issue that we tackle together in this community. And as was well said, Cleveland is Cuyahoga County and Cuyahoga County is Cleveland. I want to say to the nonprofit partners who are out here, thank you for your partnership. This is a public nonprofit partnership, and we appreciate you. To the advocates who are out here, thank you for your tireless advocacy. You wouldn't be here if you weren't advocating for justice on the matter of persons living with HIV and our fight to zero that out. And I want to say thank you to the members of the press that are here for being at a place today that matters. It's a matter of public policy that is of foremost priority to us at the city and county. So to some prepared remarks, but those are from my heart, I want to say thank you, Dr. Jose Zuniga, welcome back to Ohio, and Dash Sears, again, for the leadership you're doing around the world. We are in good company signing on to the Paris Agreement and with 500 cities. We are in good company. I will work with you in Cuyahoga County to work across the state of Ohio for first our large urban counties, but also all 88 counties to make sure word is received through the County Commissioners Association of Ohio of where we need to be on the matter. So as county and city leaders, it's our responsibility to ensure every resident receives the care and support they deserve, regardless of their status in society. This is health care for all, this is equity, this is about access, and that's what we stand for. With the Fast Track Cities Network, we are reaffirming our commitment to this principle and embracing a powerful global movement. What more important on this earth than health, justice in our society? What more important than the health of our people and the health of our planet? But the health of our people. This is what you're here today, and this is why we're here. HIV has been a formidable challenge for communities across the world, particularly those that are economically disadvantaged, and it has affected individuals of all backgrounds, races, genders, and ages. But in Cuyahoga County, this epidemic, as has been said, disproportionately impacts our youth and our communities of color. However, it's our duty to confront this epidemic head on, dispel the stigma associated with it. I'm very glad that every speaker has referenced that the stigma sometimes is the barrier, and we need to X that out, relax that barrier, provide comprehensive care and support for all affected. The Fast Track Cities Network provides us with the framework, resources, and collaboration necessary to accomplish this. So thank you for giving us that framework to work in a global context. By joining the network, Cuyahoga County and the City of Cleveland are committing to your goals, to ensure that people living with HIV are aware of their status, to ensure that those diagnosed with HIV receive sustained antiretroviral therapy, and to ensure that those living with HIV are receiving therapy to achieve viral suppression. These goals collectively are known as 95-95-95 targets and have been set on AIDS and are instrumental in controlling the spread of HIV and improving the quality of life for those living with the virus. The benefits of participating in this network are tremendous. By implementing the network strategies, we will enhance testing and diagnosis services, promote access to treatment and medication, strengthen our community support systems, and improve overall health outcomes for our residents. Again, Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, we have the resources. We have the know-how, we have the people, we have the institutions. If we put our heads together, as we've often said, we have, and I quote unquote, world-class healthcare institutions, but the real measure is how that reaches all. And are we a world-class healthcare city? What we're here today to talk about, those living with HIV, this is the canary in the mine for us, right? This is the measure. Are we or are we not stepping up? I think today is a huge step forward with the leadership here in the crowd and here in the dais. It will allow us to collaborate with our cities and counties around the world, share best practices from this healthcare hub, and learn from each other's experiences. And it's through collective action, why we're here, that we'll truly make a lasting impact on the fight against HIV. County and the city join Fast Track Cities Network in a historic moment today that will shape the future of our community collectively. We're working together to end stigma, improve access to care, and build community where every individual is valued and supported, particularly that their health is the priority. And we sign on to the goals of 2030, and with the Fast Track Cities, I want to say to my colleagues here, to Dr. Margolius, to Dr. Harris, Commissioner Willis, Dr. Brown, and all those on the AIDS Funding Collaborative, our staff, our partners in the nonprofit community, and to me, Mayor Bibb. He is my partner. We look at policies together, we act together, we pool resources, we get together, and our team members are just that. We're a team together. We're a team with you. Thank you for the leadership at Fast Track Cities. It's our honor to sign today. And I think it is now up to Mayor Bibb.
Thank you, Chris, so much. It is so great to have a county executive to work with on all of these important issues that face the city of Cleveland and the entire region of Cuyahoga County. I also believe it is important to give people their flowers while they're here on this earth. And so I want to just acknowledge from the podium all the activists, all the community leaders, and the public health professionals who have been on the front lines for decades fighting for those that have HIV and AIDS across our city. Let's give you guys a round of applause for your leadership. I also want to just thank the Fast Track Cities Initiative for considering and asking Cleveland and Cuyahoga County to be a part of this momentous occasion. You know, in the past, we would have leaders in this city and in this region who didn't believe it was our obligation here in Cleveland and in Cuyahoga County to be a part of national and global conversations. Well, that time has ended, and this is a new era of collaboration, and we want to make sure that the world understands the voice of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County as well, too. This issue of HIV and AIDS is very personal to me, and I haven't shared this story a lot publicly, but my late cousin Chris, who was murdered about 7 years ago, not only was a victim of HIV and AIDS, but he also came out as gay in my household, a household that was a Black Baptist household. And I remember when he came out to me, my mom, his mother, and my grandmother, I could hear the trepidation in his voice. He was scared, he was depressed, he was lonely. And I think about what would have happened if my mom, who was a social worker, didn't have one of her first jobs at the Greater Cleveland AIDS Task Force with Julia Patterson. And my mom was able to help navigate the system for my late cousin Chris. And while his life was cut short due to his murder, today I think Chris will be happy about what we're doing in this city and the county to make sure that we end this epidemic by 2030. And so today is not only about public policy, it's not only about the importance of collaboration, it's not only about raising awareness, today is about hope. It's about dignity and letting the world know that HIV and AIDS is not a death sentence. It is not a death sentence. And that we, as city leaders and county leaders, are committed to making sure we continue to provide that hope all across our city and all across the region. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for being here, and let's sign on to this pledge to continue that next chapter of hope and dignity for all those affected by HIV and AIDS across the city and the county. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.